Hi everybody, I would like to formally welcome you to Kindred Spirits, an exploring Indigenous Allyship event. I first wanted to acknowledge that in the city of Tulsa, the land on which we stand is the present-day home of the Muskogee, Cherokee, and Osage nations. We give honor and respect to the tribes that occupied this land before them. We honor the 39 sovereign nations that share geography with Oklahoma, as well as all Native people that call this land home. We encourage you to learn about Native history, culture, and contributions from a tribal perspective. This place we are gathered in particular is located in the northern corner of the Muskogee Nation. The American Indian Resource Center at Zarro Regional Library in West Tulsa sits on land that once belonged to original Muskogee Alati Sammy Naharki. So this event is going to delve into the powerful story of the Great Hunger, the generous gift of the Choctaw Nation, and how this enduring connection between the Irish and Native American communities continues to resonate today. I wanted to take a moment to recognize our royalty. Miss Indian Tulsa, Abby Jean Runnels. Runnels holds Muskogee, Sac and Fox, Delaware, Shawnee, Lakota, Caddo, Otto, and Iowa heritage. Her parents are Teresa and Jack. She's a member of Duck Creek Ceremonial Ground. And we also have Junior Miss Indian Tulsa, Katie Jean Alexander. So Alexander holds Muskogee, Yuchi, Pawnee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Wyandot heritage. Her parents are Tricia Fields Alexander and Tony Alexander. She is a member of Polecat Ceremonial Ground. And now I also wanted to take a moment to hand the mic over to Tricia Fields, Katie's mom, who also catered tonight's meal, and give her an opportunity to tell you a little bit about the food that we're having.
Hello, my name is Tricia Fields Alexander. I'm Pawnee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Yuchi. Teresa is my friend. She's over the American Indian Resource Center here, and I'm sure you guys already know what a wonderful asset it is to the community, but it really is in that not every city has something like this. And Teresa really works hard at it, and she's been doing it for a long time. So if you have any questions about Choctaws, any tribes, anything, ask her. Anytime she has events, she never charges anything. It's part of our tax dollars. It's part of our city. It's the outreach. If you have ideas, she's always looking for fresh ideas, and she's always changing her programs all the time. And it's a great resource because it's free. It gives you an opportunity to meet authors, artists, participate in workshops, and just gain knowledge. She works really hard at it. I've known her since I was a little girl, and she's just always pushing that. So I'm happy that our girls get to be princess together because we're like family, although we're not actually blood related. Our families are interwoven for lots of years and multiple generations, and I know it'll continue to be that way. And I couldn't be more proud of Abby and Katie, and we call them the Princess Sisters because they really are. They support each other. Abby's a grade ahead of Katie, but she's a good role model. Even though it's not like she's way older, she still is older than her, and she gives Katie someone to look up to. And Abby's active in sports and sports manager. She has a job. She's loving her senior year, and that's what it's all about. And I want to thank people like Brittany and others in the community, and Teresa and the library for inviting our girls to come and do different things. It's not about being the most flamboyant or getting treated where they don't have to do anything. It's actually the opposite. Our princess girls were chosen and asked to be princess by the things that they do in the community, the way that they give back, the way that they serve their they're family and friends. They are both cooks. Teresa and I both cook. The girls have grown up cooking and helping, and that's cultural preservation. People don't think about it. People often think about cultural preservation with history and laws, and those of course are, but just like our language, without our language and our culture and our traditional ways, we're not any different than any others. We're just all the same. And so to me, them both being princess at the same time, they never argue, they laugh, they giggle, they get the giggles, and I think that they've been having fun. We're not demanding princess committee. You know, we often like to leave the events early too because we're tired, and we always laugh because as soon as something's over, Abby's taking her sash off, she's putting her shorts and her tennis shoes or her slides back on, you know, and that's good because some people want it, you know, there's some princesses or people have an idea of that princesses don't have to do anything and that they get waited on hand and foot. And that's the opposite. Our girls are serving and they're close to their grandfathers, they're close to us, and I can speak for Teresa too that we both are very proud of our daughters, and this is such a blessing for them to be asked and recognized and to come and talk to all of you, special people, for the things that you are doing in your community also. So I just wanted to say that much. And whenever Brittany and I had lunch over the summer, we're talking about things, we just both got all emotional, and I too am in the process of adopting Katie's best friend. She's been with us for a few years, and I have guardianship of her, but she's almost 18, so we might not, I don't know, but she's not going anywhere. She's ours, and we just love her, and she's Choctaw as well. But tonight's meal is going to be a mix. So I'm sure most of you have all had corn soup or heard of corn soup. It's dried sweet corn. Some people make it with pork, stewed pork, but from our Pawnee side, we always use beef or deer, venison. But so today it has beef. Our Creek side, we like to use pork, and I know our Choctaw side, we like to use pork too, but tonight it does have beef, but then we also added some carrots, some squash, and some zucchini. And then we have Indian fry bread, which is not traditional, but it is a contemporary native food, and it's still treasured and loved, and you can choose to eat it or not. But then we have brown bread, and then there's some cookies that other people brought. And so I know that they just wanted to have a good gathering for you tonight, so feel free, there's plenty. But I just want to thank you guys for all that you do, and for Brittany for having this on her mind to have you guys get together, and for including our daughters to come and add to their tally of things that they're doing. And we're just really proud of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. So together tonight, we're going to learn how we can use this remarkable gift, this relationship, historical bond as a guide for fostering Indigenous allyship in modern times. As I mentioned before, don't take off yet. Tonight's event includes a thoughtful discussion and catered dinner from Autumn Star Catering, which is Tricia's company. It's a Native American-owned company, obviously. I want to also say thanks to our partners at the Tulsa City County Library here, the Irish American Club of Tulsa, who's also here. We'll get into that in a moment, as well as the Choctaw Cultural Center. This event is sponsored by VNN Oklahoma, a Native-owned news company based here on the Muskogee Creek Nation Reservation. And now I'm going to welcome Miss Indian Tulsa Abby Jean Reynolds to lead us in a prayer over the food. You don't want that light stand in your eyes.
Let's bow our heads. Holy, holy Legistat, Dear Heavenly Father, we for today, we would like to thank you for this meal prepared for us today. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right, if everyone wants to stand up and line up and grab some food, we're gonna serve ourselves. Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
If you come this way, watch out for this cord. We also have some brown bread. Brown bread and soda bread as well, traditional Irish breads that I pleaded for. That are over there. So while everyone is getting their food, I'm going to talk a little bit about this evening. And really about how this came about. So as I mentioned, Verified News Network has been in the area for the last 7 years. I co-founded it with my husband. I'm Irish American. My husband, Kelly Tidwell, is our majority owner and the other co-founder. And so he is a citizen of Muskogee Nation, and he's also Cherokee. And as we went on this news journey since 2018 together, he's the business side. I was a journalist working in television at the time. We found a really great need for Indigenous news and representation for other underserved community groups. And that's really how VNN started, and we took off with ideas, doing more news and community service in our areas for underrepresented groups. And this event, actually, the first time we had this event was last year. We had it at the Philbrook Museum, and we had it in partnership with Osage News and Catalyst News, and those are our news partners that we've worked a lot with before. And really just to spur more conversations about talking about difficult things, and how we can find commonality, and how there's obviously a lot of Indigenous issues in the state of Oklahoma and beyond, but especially in our area relating to wealth inequity and health disparity. And we really wanted to get into why that was, the history, and how that can be resolved. And in order to really create equity in our communities, we knew that we needed more allies, particular people that were not Indigenous, but that cared about creating equality and especially equity to get up to the position of equality. And so last year we had our first event. There was 50 people, and it was 85% Indigenous. And the question was, where's all the non-natives? We know this history, and we know these stories, and so that was one of the biggest feedback and comments that we had received, was that they had wanted more non-natives to show up and learn about the history and just kind of learn more about having difficult conversations and how to find allyship and, again, commonality. And so this year, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my name is Brittany Harlow. I'm also on the board for the Irish American Club of Tulsa that I've been with for, what is it, John?
2 years.
John's 2 years. And so that was really great because I was doing a lot of Indigenous work in the community because I'm married to a citizen of Muskogee Nation. We have a mixed child. We also foster through Muskogee Nation, and so I was doing a lot of Indigenous work, Indigenous allyship work, but I wasn't doing a lot to honor my Irish heritage, which for me is just a part of every fiber of my being, but not so much my kids, and even Kelly's Irish side, because he's Native American and Irish, and so it just seemed like a natural marriage this year to bring back exploring Indigenous allyship, and then of course the Irish and Native American people have a very storied history in their own right. And so that is basically what tonight is about. And so as soon as, we'll wait till everyone gets seated, we have our President, John Miggins, who's going to give a presentation about the Great Hunger, which ultimately led to the Choctaw Gift. We also have our Vice President, John Nolan here. Dolan? Sorry. Yeah. And so if you are actually part of the Irish American Club of Tulsa, would you mind raising your hand?
You can probably tell who's
You guys are familiar faces, so thank you, and really thank you to everybody for being here. I'll let you guys get settled down, and I'll go hop on the computer. So this is my picture program. Announcements in my brain, which are, obviously not the best place to keep announcements. But Autumn Star Catering and Tricia Fields also put on the Native American Art Market. And it is in early December, that first Saturday. What is that? Is that like the 6th and 7th?
7th is Saturday.
7th and 8th? I think it's December 7th and 8th. And so it's massive and it's really awesome. It's at the Glenpool Conference Center. And so that it's a lot of, Native American vendors and artisans. That's where I do all my Christmas shopping, especially all of my family lives in, or most of my side of the family lives in Massachusetts, so they get all the things.
Is it in Glenpool or
Glenpool Conference Center. And then also, in case everyone here did not know, isn't that same night? That's the Irish Club's Christmas potluck dinner. That's that Saturday, that Sunday night.
Sunday.
So you can go to the art market on Saturday night, and then go to the Irish Club's Christmas potluck on Sunday night. Be a nice fun weekend.
We're having a Choctaw Christmas on Saturday too.
That same Saturday?
Yes.
Man, I don't know which there's more events. November
It was
or
lovely
December.
Choctaw Santa.
Oh,
He's wonderful. We just love him.
that's awesome. And everyone found the drink. So, Megan's, I think that you will eat after. Because you're going to present while everyone eats. And so if you want to grab is it okay?
Yeah.
And you have about,
Can I have one more bite?
yeah, one more. You have about 10 minutes, and I'll follow along as best I can. If you want to just remember to talk into the mic, and if you want me to, if and when you want me to go to the next slide, let me know and I'll hit it.
Do we have to turn this on?
No, it's on. It's just gonna stay on.
Well, welcome, and we're so honored to be here. I'm John Miggins, the president of the Irish American Club. I've been a member a long time. I took a little hiatus, but John and I go way back. Jack used to dance when he was young, and the Irish, we like dancing too. So it's in the blood. I actually have some personal stories about the famine. My family was affected very harshly. Ireland's an agricultural community. In the 1841 census, there was about 8.2 million people. Everybody had 5 acres, half an acre, something, and they grew their own food. They didn't go to the store and buy it. They swapped and stuff, and I'm sure they bought some things, but you grew your own food, and it was cabbage, potatoes, earth food, and then they hunted too, I'm sure. But anyway, you went too fast.
Oh, sorry.
So, how did it start? Oliver Cromwell conquered Ireland in the 1700s for England, and the land was given to the lords and ladies, and so they came in and just took the land and then made the people the tenant farmers on their own land. It's really a terrible story. And then they would make them pay the crops, so they were sharecropper type thing. And it was very one-sided, If you didn't pay, you got evicted. And there was a lot of people evicted. The Irish are a very proud people, and although they're not militant, they don't take a lot of, you can't push them that far, eventually they push back. And that's a good quality, I think. So anyway, the Great Famine came in 1845. Mainly the potato crop was affected because they ate mostly potatoes. My mom said they ate 6 potatoes a day. You get more calories per potato than any other vegetable. I mean, it's the most dense calorie intake, so you can survive on potatoes. So the diaspora was the disease and famine, and then also a lot of people left. Go ahead and go to the next. But the reason why, it was on single crop, they were relying on a single crop, there was a blight, and it was for 5 years. It was really brutal. So this tells about the economy and that kind of thing. Sweet, loving people, music, I mean, they had a simple life, and it was really quite a bit to be admired. So the colonization and the lords from England were just granted thousands of acres. And in my mom's hometown, she's from Woodford, there's a huge manor that's still there. It's the manor of the lord that was in that area. And actually, the tenant revolts started in her little area. So they finally revolted. Anyway, so they control the land, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but Irish people were less than human. And it's just the Indians have had serious, same kind of, prejudice where they didn't care, Get somebody else to do the work, they died. But typically Irish families were huge families, big families, because they needed them to help on the farm, I'm actually one of 12, but my mom's one of 8. And it's a beautiful country. Go ahead and hit the next one. So, I don't know the particular blight, but that's the name there. And it arrived, there's theories that it wasn't arrived, that it was sinister, but I don't know if that's true or not. But the potatoes were such a staple in the economy, and that's what they lived on, that it really hurt tremendously. But there was a lot of other food that they grew. Turnips and carrots and stuff, but a lot of it was exported to England. Cattle, grain, there was plenty of food. It wasn't shared. So for 5 years, it was one after another, and it got so bad that, and this is a story that I know for a fact, the Protestant church, which was the English church, came in and said, if you convert, they would put these big pots outside their church and start cooking soup. And if you wanted soup, you got to convert to be a Protestant. And My mom said they called them the supers, but a lot of people survived. They converted. Anyway, that's pretty devious plan, in my opinion. Go to the next slide if you don't mind. So while millions starved, there was a lot of food still. There was exporting food and grain and dairy to England. And Ireland is a rich aggregates. The land is very bountiful. It's just easy to grow stuff there. I'm standing right near way around. I can move around. So the first Sir Vincent, I don't know if it was Vincent, the first Prime Minister of England was Peel, and he actually had a soft heart. He bought a bunch of corn and brought it to Ireland to help during the famine the first year. And my mom said they didn't know how to cook corn. They were eating it raw and it's breaking their teeth. To make corn is pretty hard. So they didn't give them the proper, they were so hungry. They wouldn't even wait to cook the stuff. So he did try and he was expelled. And then James Russell was the prime minister after that. He kind of said, you guys, I'm just going to ignore this policy. They did nothing to help. The English government did nothing. Actually, they made it worse by letting the Lord of the Manor take the food away. So that's why the generosity of Choctaw is so much. You guys were the only ones that, a small nation would give a pretty big amount for that time. So a lot of people left. I think over 1 million people died. Well, this talks about the labor. When you worked your land, you had to give 80% of your crop to the landlord. And that leaves you get 20% left to live, especially you got all those kids. It wasn't easy to survive. And then if they didn't pay, they were evicted. So sometimes things happen, your crop isn't good, you get kicked out of your house. My mom's great-grandfather was evicted from his home. They burned his house, and he lived in a barn. He had 8 children still in a barn. So they're very hardy people. It takes a lot to get rid of them. Go to the next one, if you would.
What's the last one?
Over 1 million people died, not only from starvation, but from other diseases. 2 million immigrated, and a lot of them died on the ships too. The deplorable conditions, the coffin ships, they call them. So many settled in the U.S. and Canada and Australia. So the diaspora is kind of the exodus. But in reality, that ended up being pretty good because someone went to Australia and they went all over the world. And now there's Irish everywhere. That's, it's a little bit of a blessing for that. Can you go back to that one? Yeah.
Right.
So the population fell 25% in a few years. That's unheard of. One of the biggest declines in the European continent ever. I think the plague might have been worse, but this was completely avoidable. It was no reason that they couldn't have other food. And my mom told me that her great-great-grandfather's kid, I don't remember his name, their name was Clark. They were forced to pick the turnips for the English, and he took a bite out of one, and the English soldier hit him in the mouth and broke all of his teeth. He had one tooth his whole life, and he lived to be 100 years old. So they're pretty hardy people, but it's terrible what happened. So we really appreciate the impact of the gift. I don't know what actually happened to it, but just the symbolism of the gift and the generosity. Because I think the Choctaws were not doing that big of a tribe, I don't think, at that time. I'm not sure. Sugar will talk about that too. But as far as oppressed people, we know how you feel. And Oliver Cromwell was the guy that was the one. And when my son was born, my mom goes, my wife was going to name him Oliver. I said, no. My relatives would be turning over in their grave. So we named him Matthew. So anyway, any questions or any comments or?
It says cultural impact is the climate, Irish language, and traditions. That's the community.
That, yeah.
Displaced. Does that not sound exactly what happened to?
Happened to the Indians too. Yeah.
People here?
Well, that was worse for them. They made them go to schools and, you know,
It was, yeah.
a lot worse. And look what's going on right now in Gaza. The same bloody thing. They're just, when is it going to end? It's just terrible. So hopefully we can all pray that mankind is a little soul searching. Thank you for inviting us, and hopefully we can repay you guys somehow.
Alito, I'm going to stay seated so I can, because I've got a lot of meaty stuff in my presentation. I'm going to try not to bore you with it. I will go a little bit quicker over some of the things that John has already talked about, but before I get started, I'm also learning our language. So if you will be gentle with me, I am going to, this is the first time I've ever done this, I'm going to attempt to introduce myself in my language. Halito, Sihochapi Ya, Sandy Behill, Mita Durant, Oklahoma, Amita Lee, Choctaw Cultural Center, Totsaliche Lee Micha Sia. Hello, my name is Sandy Behill. I live in Durant, Oklahoma, and I'm the Director of Education at the Choctaw Cultural Center, which, by the way, I wholeheartedly invite you guys down to see us. I'll talk about this a little bit further into the presentation, but we are expanding our Choctaw Irish Fest this year, which will be on March 14th and 15th. That's a Friday and a Saturday, and I would love to see some of our Tulsa friends come down to visit us. It's an amazing event. We have a fantastic center. We are barely 3 years old, and we've won awards. My education department has won awards. We are working very, very diligently to try to revitalize our language, our culture, our dancing, our food, everything that makes us who we are as a people. So I encourage you to check out our website, and please come visit us. I'd love to see you in Texas. That'd be great. Okay, so without further ado, let me go and talk about the Choctaw Irish connection. So I want to explore a little bit more the deep friendship that we have with the Irish. It is the similarities between our people is unfortunately very, very parallel. And it's interesting that, you know, you're talking about being across the Atlantic Ocean and across borders and across time and space, and yet here we are and we have so much in common. So the exploration that we're going to do today is we're going to talk about, the slides are working. I'm going to talk about the origins of our bonds. That'll be our next slide. So when I do this presentation, I like to start out with, what do the Trail of Tears and a Potato Blight have in common? Both of those events spawned a multi-century friendship between the Choctaw and the Irish. Choctaw Nation, the Irish people, have a surprising historical connection, which we've already talked about a little bit, but we'll get into just a little bit deeper. And despite over the 4,000 miles of the Atlantic Ocean, our two nations have a common foundation of empathy. We have fostered a unique kinship between our peoples, and this bond is rooted in those shared experiences of colonization. Ironically, we were colonized very much the same way that the Irish people were colonized. We survived, we are resilient, we are strong people. We have survived these hardships, and we have this mutual respect, this deep, deep mutual respect for each other that continues to just grow exponentially. And I am Choctaw and Irish, so I'm walking both of these worlds, and I feel very, very passionate about both of them. So let me give you just kind of a quick overview. Who are the Choctaw? We are one of the largest Native American tribes. We originated from early day modern Mexico area in the American Southwest. Around 1800, Choctaws settled into the Mississippi River Valley, which is the area of Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana, a little bit of the Texas Panhandle. We have some kinship, believe it or not, with the Seminole. Some of our band broke off in there. We are, much like the Irish, we are known for our distinct culture, our language, our education, and our governments. We also were forced to leave our homeland via the Trail of Tears. Our exodus was during the 1830s to present-day Oklahoma, and we were also the first tribe to give any type of aid during the potato famine. Now, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. Who are the Irish? Well, you guys already know, you're an ethnic group and nation that originated on the Isle of Ireland. Your ethnicity developed from many groups, including the Celtic, the Gaelic Celtics, the Anglo-Normans, the French, Viking, English. You're also known for dancing and music, and my personal favorite is the use of at least 10 different instruments in the music. I love Irish music. The nationality, and this was really interesting, I think, about Irish, because we've got ethnicity and nationality. So the nationality refers to the two islands. One of the islands being the Republic of Ireland, and the other one being Northern Ireland, which is actually part of Great Britain. So I'm going to gloss over this really quickly. So we're going to talk about the Irish famine. The years were 1845 to 1852. As John talked about, there was a horrible, horrible potato blight that affected the tenant farmers and families of Ireland. It created a massive, massive famine, widespread death, immigration, and a lot of families were trying to escape to try to find better lives in Australia and America aboard these coffin ships, where the conditions were many, many times worse than the ones they actually left from. The captains were brutal, they were abusive, they were cruel. There was a lot of physical violence. Many, many, many people died and perished with these ships. And meanwhile, people that are still back in Ireland, you've got the British rule. The response to the famine was absolutely, I use the word ineffective, but in this crowd, I'm going to actually kind of say non-existent. Okay, we'll be real with that. The tariffs on the grains were so high that even the tenant farmers that were there, they couldn't afford to pay for the food that they're producing. Corn laws were created. There was massive export of food and like the staples for the Irish diet, which did include some of the imported corn, all of the different grains. As John said, the cattle, all of the farm animals. The food was plentiful, but the food wasn't being given to the people who needed it. It was being given largely to people who really didn't need it because they had plenty of their own. There's a little bit of irony in that. I'm not sure how many people are aware of that part of it. So the Choctaw response was in 1847. We were at a gathering in Scullyville, and there was a meeting and Choctaw was a very, very small tribe at this point. There were some, ironically, there's a little bit of irony here that some of the U.S. government kind of brought this to our attention during this conversation, because we were talking about treaties, and it really got to our heart, because we hadn't been off the Trail of Tears that long. It had been, about a dozen years, and we understood the plight. We understood what it's like not to have food and to be pushed out of your land and to feel hopeless and to have so many of your people die and your language die. And so the tribal members got together and they collected, and the amounts kind of vary, and I don't get hung up on the amount too much, because again, I think it's kind of the idea. Most places refer to it as $170, which that's a lot of money back in those days. But if you turn that into modern day money, it's about $6,500 in 2024. So that's a whole lot of money. And they needed to use money to pay for things like land, like housing, like food. And they said, okay, we'll split the money that we need for this and we'll give it to our brothers and sisters over in Ireland. So this was a great, generous gift. I think it speaks to the selflessness of the people that decided that this was something that needed to be done. And I don't think we realized at the time what an amazing friendship was going to evolve because of this. And I think that's also a testament that there was no expectations of anything to be given back. It was just, you need help, we get it, here. And that's part of our basic community thoughts. I'll talk about those here in just a second. So why did the Choctaw help the Irish? We understood the shared experience of suffering. We understood the history of colonization, the forced displacement, the destitution. We understood values, community values, and we have a very, very deep value that our community, especially in times of crisis, you come together and you do what you can, even if it's a penny, even if it's feeding someone, even if it's giving you the shirt off your back. You do what you can to help your neighbors, to help your community. That's just who we are, and it's probably one of our highest values. I don't think we were expecting the gratitude to come from the Irish the way it is. Irish people have been so profoundly touched by this donation, and this donation became a huge symbol of solidarity, that we stand with the Irish, of resilience and of compassion. So this bringing us more to modern times. Ireland started paying it forward. And this is the really cool part. And you guys probably know a lot of these stories, but I'm willing to bet there's a couple in here that you don't know. So I'm gonna take that gamble. So our modern tributes are, I'm gonna go back to 1992. So in 92, the Choctaw Irish Friendship Walk occurred. There were 8 Irish people who retraced the Trail of Tears from Broken Bow, Oklahoma to Naniwaya, Mississippi, and they made the 500-mile trek in reverse. So they didn't come the way, and I think that part is really important, because the feels from that is to kind of reverse that trek instead of tracing in the same direction. And that's the way we've always looked at it. So they did it in the opposite direction. It almost felt like they were taking us home. It was really cool. In 95, Irish President Mary Robinson visited the Choctaw Nation in order to reestablish and rekindle our friendship. And in 2017, very famously, Kindred Spirits was erected in Cork, Ireland by Alec Pintag. And that was to commemorate that, at that point, 175-year friendship between us. And then in 2018, the Irish Prime Minister came to Choctaw and decided to create a scholarship. And this is something I want to spend a minute to talk about. There is a really lovely scholarship for our Choctaw youth that allows those who are awarded the scholarship to attend university over in Ireland. And our Chutta Foundation has bonded with them over this and are continuing. I think this year we have 2 scholars that went over, and it's a lot of fun talking to these young people and listening to their experiences as they go to events in regalia, and Irish people just come up and go, oh, what is this? What, and we just feel so loved, and it's just such a neat thing. I love this scholarship. It does a lot of good. In 2020, this is something I'm going to bet not many people know. This is my big tidbit. In 2020, for the Lacrosse World Games, the Iroquois nationals were supposed to sit in the games, but because they were not viewed as a sovereign nation, they did not get to participate. And the irony of this is they are the creators of lacrosse. Okay, so sit with that for a second. The people who created lacrosse could not play the game in the World Games because they were viewed as less than.
And what year was that?
This was in 2022. I'm sorry, 2020, and it was for the 22 games. I apologize for that. And the Ireland,
Like New York area.
it was actually in Birmingham, Alabama. And so when the Ireland lacrosse team got word of this, they were in the World Games. They forfeited their spot and gave it to the Iroquois. Isn't that fantastic? So again, it amazes me how much there has been a pivot forward and a giving back. When COVID hit, the Navajo nations and the Hopi nations were particularly brutalized because they are so isolated in Arizona. They were losing like basic services, water. They were not getting for some reason, I'll keep my comments to that. They weren't getting vaccines and the medication and the medical care that they needed. And Ireland caught wind of this too, and they raised money and they sent $2 million to help the Hopi and the Navajo during the pandemic. And so we get phone calls at the Cultural Center all the time. People are like, "We love you. How can we help? We want to give you money." And we have people that donate money to other scholarships that we have that are run through our Chutta Foundation. And the blessings that are going backward and forward is I hope it never ends. It's really a lovely thing. The most recent thing that we have is, I got a picture in the lower left-hand corner there, is Sam Stitt created the statue called the Eternal Heart. And it has got our Choctaw diamonds included in there. It is sitting on our Capitol grounds in Tuscaloma. One thing that's really fascinating about this particular piece is it was installed so that it faces Ireland. So I think that's a pretty neat
What is
thing.
it, aluminum?
I believe it is aluminum. I did a lot of digging for this one. I know it's 8 foot tall. I mean, I was there when it was unveiled, and it's lovely. It is absolutely breathtaking. It was a rainy day on Labor Day this year, and storms were hitting, and they had to push back the unveiling a little bit. And then right before they unveiled it, the sun came out. Right, I was like, okay, I got you.
And then it started raining after everything.
It did. It started as soon as the unveiling was over. It went right back to raining. So that was kind of amazing. Another statue that's actually in the cultural center. You'll see it on the upper right-hand corner. It's called the Gift, and it commemorates the gift both to you and from you. The two people that are standing there is actually overlooking a window that leads out of our exhibit, and everything. It's really cool because it's a 360. You can walk around, and the woman's hair is in a banaha bun, which banaha is a type of bread that we eat. So that bun is reminiscent of that, and the bowl is. And I don't know how many of you guys know this. Kindred Spirits is actually built in the shape of a bowl, even though it's feathers. And there's a reason for that, because the bowl is a reference to the life-giving food. And so this also kind of keeps playing with that theme. This last August, Brendan O'Neill, who did that sculpture, did a twin sculpture, and she now lives in the National Famine Museum in Ireland. So she was just unveiled there just a few months ago. So some reflections that, I'm sorry, I'm about to pass up a good one. So talking about our Choctaw and Irish Cultural Exchange, we do have a really wonderful, this is the McCafferty dancers that are out of Tahlequah, I think is where they're from. They have a wonderful worldwide depiction in dance. And they use river dance, they use ballet, they use all different types of dance to express this kindred spirit story. And it's just, they've got itty bitties, they've got older dancers, and it's really a lovely thing. And we're going to be really excited to welcome them back again this year for our Friendship Fest in March. The connections that we currently have is both of our peoples are big storytellers. I mean, we like to sit around and tell stories. We like to, I mean, this gathering, that's what we're doing. We might be talking about history, but we're telling stories and sharing these stories and talking about them so people don't forget. And that's an oral history tradition that is very steeped in Choctaw, as well as these stories have to be told. This education has to be, we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep bringing the awareness up, especially in the current political climates. We have to share these and keep our stories alive, our mutual stories. We continue to influence and inspire each other. We have commemorations, we have festivals, there's the educational programs in southeastern Oklahoma and northern Texas. We have the North Texas Irish Festival, the Sherman Celtic Festival and Highland Games, and then our own Choctaw Irish Festival. So, and again, I want to make sure to invite you guys to that March 14th and 15th this coming year. So the reflections that I want to leave with you guys with our legacy of generosity that is mutual. This legacy, this generosity continues to inspire both communities. And I've said it before, I really believe that we stand together in solidarity. The returned acts of kindness illustrate the empathy and solidarity toward each other. It transcends oceans, it transcends times, it transcends borders and cultures. We are brethren, we are family. The last thing that I want to leave you, because I know we're going to have some discussion about this a little bit, is a question. How can we apply these historical lessons of importance of helping others, particularly in times of crisis, apply to today's world? So while you're thinking about that, the last thing I will leave with you is something from my Nico, my chief, Gary Batten, said, we are committed to continuing the legacy of generosity that our ancestors began in the 1800s. We want to continue to help our tribal members, the state of Oklahoma, and the world. And this quote really, I think, is very an example of the ripple effect that a kind gesture hundreds of years ago had, and it just keeps rippling out today.